Hey, gang. I have got my nerd glasses on, which means that even though we just got one, like I think a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, we've got a new monthly report out, both for the PU and Squadron 42. Obviously, January is kind of a planning work for CIG, or a planning month for CIG, sometimes moving into February, so they don't do... I don't expect a lot of changes, but I've kind of glanced through this already and picked out a couple things that I think are kind of interesting or neat. And so I'll kind of go in and focus on them and kind of pick out a couple things on the Squadron 42 tracker, and we'll go from there. Let's get this. Okay, so to start this off, this is the January monthly report. AI features is, again, one of the things I said that I'm hoping this year, because I don't think we'll be getting Pyro. I don't think we'll be getting 4.0 in 2023. I think it'll be a 2024 asset. I think we'll get a lot of other cool stuff, though. And one of the things I think we will be getting is a lot of improved AI. I think PES will take some of the pressure off of the servers, and that will enable... I use this as an example all the time, but when you go on a bunker mission or something now and you encounter the bad guys, if it's a loaded server, you could probably walk around and take out all the enemies with your fist if you move quick enough, just because they can't detect you in time. But if you get on a fresh server, that's not the case. You'll walk around the corner and be hit 50 times dead center on your center mass and be dropped instantly, or by headshots, because they are amazing at their shooting, which CIG will have to dial back a little bit when they're not overcompensating for the lack of the servers being able to function. But the point of that is, I think one of the things I want to see this year, if we're not getting Pyro, is improved UI and improved AI. So I want to see... They've been talking about how the NPCs act on their internal servers for years. I want to see that in the PU. Maybe not to the full extent that they've shown on the vertical slices in Squadron 42. But I want to start seeing AI acting more like people rather than T-posing idiots. If we're not getting one, I want to get the other. And UI-wise, I want to be able to have more focused in control of the ships, if not full-on tier 0 or tier 1 engineering gameplay, which I think is what 319 will be. Hopefully what 319 will be. We'll see. Maybe it'll be 320. I'm assuming they're going to go to 320 before they go to 4.0. I don't think that we'll just be getting one patch for the entire year, which I consider 318 a 2022 patch, not a 2023 patch. Anyway, that little ran over. AI features, you can sort of see the things they're working on here. AI features team started the year enabling AI characters to throw grenades. Yeah, that's nasty. That is really nasty. So just imagine walking into that bunker going, oh crap, and you kind of duck behind some cover and all of a sudden a grenade rolls up next to you. That is a whole different situation that we have not seen yet in the verse. Hopefully they up the UI for using grenades so they're more useful for us, because I think I have pulled a grenade and thrown it twice in the last 7 years. It's not an easy thing to do in this game, and it's almost always easier to shoot or use your fists. But anyway, AI is going to be throwing grenades, and then this bit down here is kind of interesting. The attack area is great for building pressure on a player, whereas the defend area can provide... Oh, one of the things they're talking about here is AI sort of having an attack stance or defense stance, depending on what they're trying to do. And so they're kind of talking about that here. Whereas the defend area can provide the player with a tough challenge as AI are hunkered down and ready to fight. The implementation of this feature involved reusing existing systems in new ways, which is is good. You want them to do that because that's efficient. Changing the tactical queries, position and target selection, to take into consideration the attack or defend area that the AI must have, AI team. So, yeah, it sort of sounds... I mean, we've been seeing this in the reports for years, literal years, where they're talking about all of these cool things that the AI can do. And then you log into the game and they're T-posed on a chair, or, you know, they'll walk into a wall, or they're moonwalking, or they're ignoring you while cleaning the bar. So seeing the AI act like AI would be a good start. So AI tech team. So the first half of this is mostly doing with locomotion. They're going to have them do soft stops and I think hard stops. Is that how they phrased them? Oh, soft stops and harsh stops, which basically means the AI with the soft stop, even if it misses its mark, like if it says, I'm going to stop by here, it might glide by that a little bit to bring themselves or their vehicle to a smooth stop. Other times it'll be like an emergency stop, like I am hitting that mark no matter what. Like even if the people in the back get their teeth crushed in, I'm doing this. A lot of this other stuff is subsumption, usable coordinator. Subsumption is the scheduler that kind of rolls out and says, NPC, you do this now, this now, this now, this now. And it kind of does that for all of the NPCs to make them act more human, put it bluntly. AI Tech started work on 2 new features, which is cool that they're actually working on this stuff while they're going through their planning stages right now. One allows overrides for navigation mesh generation so that the team can create navigation meshes for specific agents in narrow areas. For example, this will enable NPCs to traverse areas where only a crouch state is possible. Because right now, if you go, such as vents and underfloor areas, because right now, if you go into like a crawl space, the NPCs can't follow you. In this case, they might actually start crawling after you, or using those to flank you and get behind you. So that could be a huge deal, especially if NPCs are chasing you through wrecks, can make a huge difference. The second feature enables the team to mark areas with increased navigation cost, which will influence the path chosen by the NPCs. This will be used to create areas the NPCs should avoid, like areas with fire, or to encourage them to travel on specific areas like a sidewalk, so they're not walking the road. That's pretty cool. And the other stuff, there's other stuff in here. I'm going to kind of blaze through this because a lot of this is new, but we don't necessarily have the context for it yet. AI with vehicle features. The big one on this one is that they're starting to use, program the AI to act more like planes, to use the control surfaces on their vehicles in order to, when they're engaging a player. So they'll act more like real plays, or like real planes flying around when in combat. So they'll try to get behind you and do sort of the Chris Roberts hand thing. So that thing looks like a dance move. Not going to talk about it. Animation, not a whole lot here. They're talking about facial animations and more focus on the female character, which kind of needs some work. Art for characters, frontier environmental wear costumes. They're starting to actually make the real costumes now, as opposed to just have the concept art. And then they're working on concept art for the Rough and Ready gang. I'm not familiar with that one. Dusters, I think, is around Hurston. I don't know who the Rough and Ready gang is, so that might be a Pyro one. R&R, that's kind of funny. But the big one here that I wanted to call out was fauna. So in case you don't know, fauna is animals. So if character concept team are working on animals and that's how they're budgeting their time, it might mean that they're going to start rolling out AI for animals, and we might actually start to see fauna in the game. Moving on down, art with ships. So I know that this is one where a lot of people focus, and because I want those sweet clicks and everything, I'll talk about the ships a little bit. There's a little bit of sarcasm there, but Argo SRV, which actually is the preview picture, that is the SRV right there looking out the back window of the Argo. That's one of the tractor beams. So the SRV pretty much looks finished, and I'll look right here at the progress tracker. Here's the Argo SRV right here. You can see right here that it wraps in February. So does this mean that we're getting it at the end of February? No, because it's got to have tractor beams first. So, and the downstream teams, I don't believe are involved yet, or at least last time we saw this. Yeah. So this prediction right here doesn't include the downstream teams. We're getting a new one of these, I believe, next Wednesday. So next Wednesday, I'll kind of do a deep dive into what all the changes are. And pretty sure one of the changes will be that the Argo SRV will have its downstream teams on there. I would expect it to wrap around May or June. There's no real rush because they can't release it until the tractor beams come out, but lo and behold, tractor beams are one of the things they're working on in this. Development of the Crusader Spirit continued, which passed a white box review, which is kind of the sort of first one where they're kind of like, things will fit here. Is the shape of the ship big enough to fit all this stuff, or do we need to rethink it? The A1 variant moved to the gray box phase. They have not mentioned the E1 outside of that one from the last report where they're saying they want to integrate in the escape pod or the life raft, make sure that works and is functional. The exterior is shaping up nicely with key forms all established and all major elements, like landing gear and VTOLs resolved. The interior is coming along and we're very pleased with the space so far, though there are a few visual changes we'd like to make to the doorways to emphasize Crusader's visual languages. Hopefully they're faster doors and not what you see on the MSR. A previously unannounced vehicle passed its gray box sanity review before the artwork progressed to LOD 0 level of detail. So basically decimating it so it can be a simpler model when viewed from a distance away. The exterior is almost finalized, only requiring additional detail while the exterior is progressing well. And heading back over here onto the progress tracker, here are all the unannounced vehicles that they have that they've had work done, or work is going to be starting pretty soon. So if they're talking about something it's progressed very well, you can see there's the vehicle concept art team, the vehicle concept art team, the vehicle concept art team. This one, they're actually building it, but it hasn't started yet, so they're not talking about that. So this right here is the only candidate for what they're talking about here. With previously unannounced ground vehicles past this gray box review, moved to LOD 0. That is this guy right here, which that's 14 weeks, unannounced vehicle, gonna be small. There's no downstream teams here, so I mean, that's gonna stretch out a little bit, but like 14 or I'd guess probably 20 weeks at the end of it. Or it's a simple vehicle, so that could be the sort of flatbed Atlas chassis that I've talked about before. Atlas chassis is the Ballista, the Centurion, and the Spartan are all built on the Atlas chassis. So it's basically a 6-wheeled, 8-wheeled vehicle, 6 or 8-wheeled vehicle. My guess is that they'll have a cabin and then a flatbed, and then you can load cargo onto that flatbed or one big one. So it basically become like a large SCU box. I think it's a 4 SCU box or 10 SCU box, or whatever it is. The bigger boxes you'll be able to put on there, would be my guess. That would be kind of an easy win for them since they've got the vehicle's basically built for them anyway. They just need to cut off the back and make it flat. Easy win. Gray box began on another ship. Half the team focused on the main fuselage while the other prototyped a new way to enter and exit the ship. Now, they don't say it's a new ship, and prototyping a new way to enter and exit the ship almost sounds alien. I'm wondering if they're going to start rolling out the Gaytak realm. Would be interesting. Would be real interesting. No promises on that one. We'll know more in a bit. U.S. team completed art white box for another in-production vehicle, which was then passed on to system design team. So if we're looking at the progress tracker for that, This one could be a good guess. This one could be a good guess. This is all vehicle concept team. 37 weeks is a fair size ship for vehicle concept. So it's 28. There was a gigantic one up here, right here, the 67 weeks one, which I thought might be an Invictus ship. It might be a June ship, concept ship. It wouldn't be straight to flyable. None of these outside of this one right here, this ground vehicle, are going to be straight to flyable from what I'm seeing. We may know more in a couple weeks. This one up here is going to be a straight to flyable, but they say June here, which probably means September. It's going to be a while. So for ships, the only thing it sounds like we're getting probably for Invictus, maybe 318. If 318 continues to lag and we get near the end of February, we might get that ground vehicle, especially if it's going fast through the production schedule. We'll see. All new vehicle entered gray box, and a new set of alien paints was completed for a future release. That right there and this right here prototyped a new way to enter and exit the ship and a new set of alien paints. Let me point out why I think that might be the Raylan, and that could explain why some of these sprints are so long, because they haven't done Jian really yet. So if you look here, this is the Gaytok Raylan while it's landed, and you can see that it uses a sort of a lifting platform to get in and out of the ship. Is kind of like an elevator. It just kind of floats in the air and goes up. No guarantee that that's what it is. It's just when somebody says a unique way or a new way to enter and exit the ship, we've got ladders, stairs, ramps, and what's the word I'm looking for? Docking rings. And all of those are on ships already. So what else is there? So maybe a levitating platform? I don't know. Just where my brain's at. Luminalia. Community. So I did want to talk about this one real quick. Red Festival. Furthermore, players could claim 3 wooden roosters. If you didn't know about that, it's you click on the home page, you can go here, you can get your 3 wooden rooster charms. Just punch that in, hit continue to my hangar, it'll put it in there. As far as I can tell, it's still live. So if you're watching this, go check and see. If you haven't done that yet, you can still get one. Other than that, planning out new community events, bar citizens, a new bilingual community manager to the LA office. I'm assuming Spanish. Good idea. I know they're adding a bunch of German speakers to the UK office, which also not a bad idea. Engine. So they're talking mostly about physics teams and the new Gen 12 render, just ways to kind of... This is actually a really good sign for the project, because they're starting to focus on optimization. And typically a game won't start doing optimizing things until they feel like they're in a pretty good place with the baseline engine itself. So that's a good sign. That's a really good sign. I mean, it could just be because they're implementing Gen 12 and they've got to do a bunch of cleanup on the code anyway. And PES, they've got to clean up a bunch of code. So while they're doing it, they might as well fix some other things. But yeah, good sign. We'll see. Arena Commander, we got the new race models, speedway tracks above a new planet, Green 3 of the Ellis system. And they were saying in the show earlier this morning that if you wanted to fly down to the planet, you could. You'd lose the race, but you could do it, which is kind of cool, because this means we actually do have another planet out there that they've worked on. So now not only do they have Pyro and Stanton, but they've got Green 3, and they've got Delamar of the Levski system. Maybe not completed, but we know that they have some assets that go along with it so that when they start developing those systems, actually, let's see how far away the Ellis system is from Stanton. So this is one of my favorite maps of sort of off maps of the Star Citizen universe. Just if you're ever curious about it, this one's just really clean. So you've got Stanton is right here, and we've got Ellis is two others in the direction of like Davian. You got Killian, which I think Killian is where Drake is from. But a lot of people are guessing. So you've got Stanton's here, Pyro's here. A lot of people think that Magnus would be a good one to go next. Just kind of you make a quick hub here. Terra would be a good kind of very big center population, even more so than Stanton. It's like a big trade hub. It's kind of the counterpoint to Seoul. So Stanton, Ellis isn't that far away. So just something to keep in mind. So they're doing a lot of refactor on the rounds of the code. Obviously, modularity for a new feature. It also tackles some problem areas, prevented expansion of the old systems, such as separating unintended connections to PU characters, validating loadouts, and adding the ability to change the ship selection while in game. I don't know why you'd need to do that while you're in the game, but couldn't hurt. Kind of cool. Just be able to race with friends. I'm not going to snuff it. Jericho Station? I think that's Jericho Station. Looks like Jericho Station. Wonder if they're going to put a racetrack around it. I know they made a new Arena Commander map for it, or that's what they're saying. Which would be a good way to kind of practice, get in there and practice with the group. Features, characters, and weapons. Last month, the feature team continues to support the upcoming patch release with critical bug fixes, specifically issues related to the cargo system, tractor beam, and inventory. So I wanted to take a quick moment here to talk about the tractor beam. Right now we just kind of got the hand tractor beam, which is the simple way to do things. With the industrial size tractor beams, I'm assuming one of the things you're going to have to be able to do, or have the capability to do, is to rotate things as you're moving them. So right now you pick up a box, however you pick up that box, that's how you move it around. Is if a face is facing you, there's no way to reach out, touch the thing, and turn it around or roll it or whatever. But when you're talking for salvage gameplay or even search and rescue and stuff like that, being able to turn something in space is going to be a pretty big deal. So I'm sure that that's one of the features that are kind of trying to figure out, both with the UI and with the mechanics itself, and with the engine itself, the gameplay itself. But that's just kind of my guess what's going on there with the tractor beams. Additionally, ongoing mining balance and update progress well, with small changes that have bigger impacts being added to the system. For salvage, gameplay features help missions prepare to use mechanic in new content. So they talked today about missions for going out and taking claims. Basically, one of the things I talked about either a week or 2 weeks ago, where I would think one of the obvious missions would be you have scan ships go out and make a claim. So they find the rock and they're all like, I will sell you this claim, because you got something like a terrapin, you can't mine the rock, but you find something that's 100% agresium and you're like, I've got 100% agresium rock here, I will sell it to you for 120k. And somebody says, I'll take that. And then you sell them the claim, they get a marker where that rock is, you both go on your merry way. They get to mine it, you get money for finding it. Sort of seems like a win-win. Kind of surprised they haven't done that, but they were talking about a mission where you would take a job from Shubin and you tell Shubin, or Shubin says, hey, you give us 20k, you can go to this area and mine as much as you want. We found a claim, give us money and do that. It's basically just, as opposed to a player doing it, an NPC is doing it. So I think the next step would be to have a player actually going out and finding it. But for right now, that's what we got. US gameplay feature continued the overall design for loading and unloading physicalized cargo and designs for missions that leverage the new cargo systems kicked off. These missions will also utilize the boarding actions now available with soft death alongside the retrieval of containers or other objects of interest. That's kind of an interesting toss in there. Like people would be my guess, frozen in their little stasis chambers, which is cool. It means they're moving forward on physicalized cargo. That's kind of tier 2 of cargo, is having the cargo lifts, physicalized cargo. You order something from a station, like 100 boxes of kitty litter. Now that 100 boxes of kitty litter will come up on a freight elevator in your hangar, and you'll have to load it onto your ship, as opposed to you hit the buy button and it's magically formed on your ship. That won't be the case anymore once the system rolls out. So that's kind of what they're talking about there. Features for mission. So here, this is what I was talking about before. A mining mission was also a prototype in which players can purchase the location of valuable prospect. There are currently 3 variants. Lawful, which takes place in the monitored zone and has friendly defenses to protect against any hostiles. Unlawful, where the player sees legally owned mining claims. And lawless, which takes in unmonitored zones and can be accepted by multiple players at the same time. So when they were riffing on Salty Mike, that's kind of what they were talking about right there. The team are also developing larger missions set on the Orson platforms. These task players with either preventing Ninetales gang from stealing Crusader Industries prototype parts or stealing them from for another criminal organization. So you have lawful and unlawful. Kind of interesting that they're both operating against the Ninetales, where you don't have the option to work with the Ninetales to steal it for them. It would seem like that's an obvious third option there. I also kind of wish that they'd open up those platforms, because there's a lot of features on those platforms that would just kind of make for an interesting trade hub or town. And I'm kind of surprised, since they have so many of those platform assets, that they aren't just creating a bunch of locations around Crusaders that aren't mission based. They're just landing zones. Not to the size of Orson, but landing zones. It's a gigantic gas giant. It has one location. Finally, mission features. Designs for defending player ships from intruders and ship-based hostility were worked on. These features are intended to replace the simplistic hostility currently in game, where ships remember the hostility of their last pilot or turn hostile the moment a hostile player steps aboard. Huh. I'm not sure I completely understand that one. I'll have to do that one a little think. It's the end of the week and my brain isn't working. In-game branding, Montreal. They worked on the Lorville skyline, which is pretty cool. Defense Con branding, which will be the main focus for the upcoming week. So Defense Con is where I think that we will probably be getting... I wonder if that's Invictus, or if it's going to be shown off in Invictus. Could be. Lighting. Lighting began the year making progress in several key areas, including tidying and bug fixing Area 18 to restore its intended appearance. That's interesting. I haven't really noticed Area 18 being particularly ugly lighting-wise, so maybe I should go land there and walk around later tonight. Work on Pyro continued. The team lighting interiors and exteriors of the Colonial Outpost and Ruin Station. Ruin Station is a no-kidding-around big asset. They also supported the ongoing rework of Lorville's skyline, touching up and improving several areas around the city. That's obviously Ruin Station there. Live Tools Montreal, local development environment tool, Anygraph tool, refined, working with server meshing, cool. Locations in the EU. working on Pyro's Ruin Station. I'm getting a little tired of hearing about Pyro. I think a lot of us, well, I won't speak for anyone else. I am getting a little tired of hearing about Pyro because we've been hearing about it for 3 years now. The work is really, really cool, but if it's not going to be dropping in my hands this year, maybe just mention there's work on Pyro continuing. Maybe throw up a picture or two, but don't spend a lot of time on it. This is a behemoth task that the team has been diligently working on, and it's looking better day to day. Yeah, the pictures we've seen of Ruin Station are just incredible. And keep in mind, Ruin Station likely won't have an armistice zone, so people can open fire in the middle of it. It's not going to be like Orison, where everything's a safe zone, you can't pull your guns. Kind of cool. Production is starting to ramp up, and the team there are feeling good about work being done. That's the underground facilities, and they're working on rocky caves now. So we got sand caves, rocky caves are up next. Outpost. One of the things that always kind of bothered me about the current locations, like especially if you go down to caves, you'll just see like a sleeping bag sitting there. So my background is I've been a certified scuba diver since I was 13. I could not imagine throwing down if it existed, a sleeping bag at the bottom of the water and just happily going to sleep when I've got a tank of oxygen on my back that's keeping me alive. There is no way I'd be sleeping somewhere where there wasn't an atmosphere. So one of the things I hope they implement more of is airlocks. Even on the ramshackle, rundown, derelict wreck site places, everywhere where a human is expected to go and take a load off or sit or eat or drink should have an airlock. Even if it's a breathable atmosphere, I would think. It would just kind of make sense. Anyway, narrative team, this is kind of the big kicker right here. In short, we have scaled back on original fictional content for the website in order to focus on in-game content, which is a good thing. It's sad because I liked reading those stories, but in-game is what really matters. I mean, if I want to read a book, I'll read a book. The ultimate hope is that we will be able to resurrect these stories and news updates in the game. Good way to do it. Online services in Montreal. Final touches on 3.18's features, including character repair, long-term persistence, insurance, and bug fixing. So, little things. Ship tech art and animation. So this is something that I've kind of noticed is a lot of content creators are saying the whole sea is done and we'll see it imminently. They keep saying things like this for a reason. Ship tech art and animation progressed with the whole sea. Thing isn't finished yet. I know on the progress tracker it says it's done and it's been done for like a year or whatever. They're still working on it. January saw them working on the animation and state setup for the ship's expanded cargo mode. So they're still working on the thing. They also enabled shader damage scraping on various ship attachments and several hull scraping issues on ship bodies, which is kind of cool. UI, which this is going to be the big one I expect to see this year. The UI tech team continued to support Alpha 3.18, ironing out any remaining issues with the way the vehicle and character loadout systems interact with persistent streaming. The team also helped with Squadron 42's Star Map, which will eventually make its way into the PU. The current focus is on adding navigation aids, such as grids and coordinates, improving the sizing of plants and markers, and adding visual polish in the map. Okay, I got a little excited there when I saw sizing of planets. Anyone that's followed this channel for any amount of time knows that I think that they should make the planets 1-to-1, and it would solve a lot of their issues with the clouds looking weird. Just it's weird to have a 1-to-1 universe and then have 1/6 size planets. My opinion. VFX last month, VFX carried out several CPU to GPU particle library conversions, starting with vehicles. What that means in English is they're making them less memory intensive. Oh, here we go. The sheer number of existing libraries combined with new content being added all the time means it can sometimes be tricky for the team to revisit and update the older libraries. We are getting there though, VFX team. Elsewhere, pre-production began on some new locations, including a huge underground facility and rock caves, which is very, very cool. And gang, that is it. Hopefully by next week we have our new roadmap, which is, I'm pretty sure this said is on the 9th, which I think is Wednesday. Either way, next Wednesday we should have the new roadmap. I'll be doing a deep dive on that one. Hopefully by the end of next week we have 3.18 dropping live. It seems like it's getting more and more stable, which is about what you'd expect. That is pretty much all I got for this one. The Squadron 42 one has some interesting aspects of the AI that are really cool, but I would assume that those would be coming over there. They especially talk about Buddy AI, which will be huge. If you want to think about Squadron 42, if you're completely uninterested in the game, think about it as the perfect test bed for crew and multi-crew AI, because that is basically what that entire game is. You're a single player and everything else you're working with is going to be AI NPCs. So everything controlling those ships is NPCs. That matters to the PU, and it's a great test bed. It sounds like they're making a lot of progress with it. If you want to hear the Squadron 42 one, let me know down in the comments and I'll do an episode on that too. Just my kind of view is that Squadron 42 is kind of in a box. We don't see a lot of updates, so there's not a lot of context. We can read something and kind of be like, okay, yeah, that's cool, but when are we going to get it? And we don't know. 4 years. We're going to get Squadron 42 in 4 years. Okay. That's all I got, gang. So the usual things, blah, 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 like, subscribe, tell all your friends, kick in your mom's door and tell her to watch me. I don't know. That's all I got. See you next time.